You know, since I started this channel, I realized that I have never done an 80s hip hop review yet. So it was long overdue, and I figured, well, what a better way to start than with Paid in Full, arguably one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. So Rakim, the God MC, he's coming out of Wyandanch, Long Island, and he's likely your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. On social media, you will often see conversations about Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, and Pac being, the all-time GOATs, but you have to understand that they wouldn't have been who they were without someone like the original GOAT, Rakim. This game-changing album, Paid in Full, dropped July 7th, 1987, making it 36 years old. You look at the fly cover art and you see that it just epitomizes the 80s era capitalism. And the back cover too, it shows that strong connection between hip hop, fashion, and the streets. While we know that Rakim was no slouch as far as his reputation was concerned, it was ultimately Eric B, though, who was really about that street life. Rakim and Eric B were rocking the rope chains and the custom-made Dapper Dan Gucci jacket. But this album is so important and so highly revered, mainly because on it, Rakim is credited for setting a new standard for lyricism at the time. And that's not to say that KRS-One, who dropped Criminal Minded in the same year, did not also have some influence in shifting lyricism at this time. But Paid in Full is largely cited as the one that raised the bar for 80s MC. Because prior to this, MCs were doing more of the shouting and rapping aggressively, with more simplified rhyme scheme. But it was Rakim who made it cool to rhyme smoothly with the slower flow and to have those intricate internal rhymes. He made that smooth poetry in a more conversational tone. His rhymes were cerebral, yet still street. And his style was just so magnetic that you were forced to hang on to every line. Also, I have to add that this album set a new standard for sampling, really popularizing the use of James Brown samples, layering more than one sample on a beat, because prior to instrumentals, they were a little skeletal. And something else that everyone might not be aware of, and that is that on this album, Rakim handled the bulk of the production. Of course, he was assisted by Eric B and the legendary Marley Marl, but Rakim was doing most of it. Now, this debut album, it contained 10 songs lasting approximately 45 minutes, but with that being said, track by track breakdown time. This thing kicked off with I Ain't No Joke, a colossal single with 3 5-mic verses. You had that infectious James Brown horn riff. It was upbeat, fly, energetic. His opening words are so classic. I ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke. Now I slam it when it's done to make sure it's broke. And he has some really cold-blooded bars aimed at the competition. I wake you up and as I stare in your face, you seem stunned. Remember me, the one you got your idea from? And I'll take you on a walk through hell, freeze your dome, then watch your eyeballs swell, guide you out of triple stage darkness. Let me be clear, no one was rhyming like this at the time. And I swear some of the lines on this album are forever etched into the psyche of hip hop heads. Track 2, Eric B is on the cut, was just Eric B doing some scratching, and is honestly one that I skipped over. Now, did anyone else do that, or am I committing the hip hop sin by skipping this one? Track 3, My Melody. It was the first song that they created for this album back in 1986 at Marley Marl's crib in Queensbridge. Now, there have been some disputes as to who did the beat between Eric B and Marley Marl, but from my understanding, Marley had the biggest role in the production on this track. My Melody was a raw, head-nodding anthem with 5 flawless verses from Rakim Allah. And I gotta say, here, his flow immediately stood out, and I consider it to be one of the best flows on really any hip hop song to this day. Because I'm number one, competition is none. I'm measured with the heat that's made by sun, or whether playing ball or bopping in the hall. I'm just writing my name in graffiti on the wall. But some of his most infamous lines would have to be, I take 7 MCs, put them in a line, and add 7 more brothers who think they can rhyme. Well, it'll take 7 more before I go for mine. Now that's 21 MCs ate up at the same time. Those to me are just perfect battle rap bars, and he said them with such smoothness, agility, and precision. It's crazy. After this was the big single, I Know You Got Soul, which was a funky, smooth, park jam, cool out type record with that notable James Brown sample. His opening lines were some of the most iconic in history. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a strong rhyme to step to. And just the way he describes his writing process on the following lines was so ill, so vivid. I start to think, and then I sink into the paper like I was ink. When I'm writing, I'm trapped in between the lines. I escape when I finish the rhyme. Next was Move the Crowd, another masterpiece. With this beat, you could just envision Rakim live at a venue, rocking the crowd. And I always felt his following lines really captured the essence of what it means to be an MC. He said, how can I move the crowd? First of all, ain't no mistakes allowed. Here's the instructions. Put it together. It's simple, ain't it? But quite clever. On the second verse, he talks about the role of being a 5%er played in his life, and that also was a big part of Rakim's music. So I'm gonna let my knowledge be born to a perfection. All praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. With knowledge itself, there's nothing I can't solve. At 360 degrees, I revolve. Like, you can just see how this 5% rhetoric would go on to influence young Nas, or let's say young members of Wu-Tang. Heck, because hearing it in 1987, that would likely make me want to be a 5%er too. The way he sounded, it just made it so cool. Following this is his Smithsonian song, Paid in Full. It had the classic Don't Look Any Further bass line and the drums from Soul Searchers. Altogether, a timeless beat that is still sampled to this day. It just contained one verse from Rakim, but in that verse, he really said it all. And he just painted a picture of that New York state of mind. I always viewed this song as like the genesis for records like Cream from Wu-Tang and New York State of Mind from Nas. It was a track that just symbolized the come up, you know, the thought process of a young man in the streets with his pockets filled with lint, wanting to live righteous, but society forced him to have that dough or die mentality. I used to roll up. This is a hold up. Ain't nothing funny. Stop smiling. Be still, don't nothing move but the money. But now I learn to earn cause I'm righteous. It was just intelligent street music that was motivational and served as a blueprint for a 90s classic. Track 7, As the Rhyme Goes On, was easily the most underrated song on the album. Rakim was just getting busy, dropping his ice cold poetry over this Barry White sample. That Beastie Boys Holding Out Hit It was a nice touch too. On here, Rakim had a long verse where he was doing some braggadocio and sunning the whack MCs, the DJs, and you know, the shark biters. Some of his standout lines were, I'm the R, the A to the K I am. And if I wasn't, then why would I say I am? Afterwards was the Eric B solo Chinese arithmetic. And it's also one that I would skip over due to the beat being a little nauseating. But in fairness, I suppose there is somewhat of a strange cult-like appeal to this track. It does have a hard title. I'll give it that. And there is something, you know, definitively 80s sounding about the beat. But is there anyone out there who loved Chinese arithmetic? Keep it a buck. Then we have Eric B is President, which was the landmark single made in 1986. And just like my melody, there was some confusion over who gets the official production credit. But I think the majority of folks are going to give it to Marley Marl. So a couple things that I loved about this track was how raw it was for a dance and party record. Gotta love the killer bass line, the drums from Fuck You President and Impeach the President. As a whole, it's a 5-mic instrumental. Rakim had those memorable opening lines. I came in the door. I said it before. I never let the mic magnetize me no more. And some more conscious 5%er talk with I don't bug out or chill or be acting ill. No tricks 86, it's time to build. He was checking all boxes with this record, making you think, doing some boasting while also rapping fly for the ladies. The thought I was a donut, you tried to glaze me was always comical. Then this project came to a close with Extended Beat, which was mainly an extended version of the instrumental for Move the Crowd. It was another one that I didn't really play too often, if I'm being honest. So there you have it. Paid in Full. It was truly a groundbreaking, influential hip-hop classic. But let me know your thoughts on this project in the comment section. Do you have any specific hip-hop memories tied to it? And do you consider this to be a top 5 album of all time?